Hello, Vancouver, and wherever else you may be listening from. This is What's So Funny. I'm Guy McPherson, and tonight we've got a rocker on. I think that's how they, isn't that how they talk? Hello, whatever city you're in. I don't know. I don't go to too many rock shows. Been to a few in my day, though. Our guest this evening is Ewan Currie. He is a rock and roll musician, plays the guitar, and he sings. He's got a golden voice. Ewan is the lead singer of the Sheepdogs. Yeah, they're a big band, right? Not a big band, not like Artie Shaw, although Ewan is a big fan of the big band like Artie Shaw. Odd, though, because the Sheepdogs are nothing like that. They're not jazzy. We talk about that a bit, I think. This episode was recorded in the summer. Where are we now? We're in November. I've been busy, folks. We've had guests. We've had live guests. But now is Ewan's turn. Ewan was with us a couple years ago when the Sheepdogs were playing in Stanley Park. And this year he was playing with his band at the Burnaby Blues and Roots and Blues Festival. I don't know. But I met him in Burnaby, went up to his hotel room. He flew in the day we recorded this and flew out the next morning, and he still made time for his biannual appearance on What's So Funny, and we appreciate it. What's new since he was last here? Well, for one thing, we got new professional mics for our remote broadcast. That should make things go better. But I found out one very important lesson. You still have to press the right buttons. Yeah, so we started talking. About 2 minutes in, I looked over to the machine and saw it was flashing red, meaning I had left it on pause. Doesn't pick up much when it's on pause, it turns out. So I don't know what we covered in those 2 minutes, but we went back and restarted, and he was great about it. The Sheepdogs have a new album out. Maybe that's why I was holding on to this episode, huh? Make it a little more timely? Maybe? It's a good excuse. They have an album out called Future Nostalgia. Great title. Great album. You should go check it out. It's available wherever albums are available. You know, like record stores, your old vinyl shop down on the corner, and probably online, too. That's about all I have to say about that. The rest is self-explanatory. Well, you actually have to listen to it, and then it will reveal itself as it goes along about what we talk about. But I know I had a good time, and I hope he did too. He's a good guy, and I think you'll enjoy listening to it. That's my guarantee. If you don't, your money back. All right. Here I am talking with Ewan Currie.
Now we're rolling.
I paused when you went there, and then I hit pause again.
So we're recording the preamble and
Ewan Currie, how are you?
Hello, Guy.
All right, so here's what we missed when I had this on pause instead of record. Good thing I just checked. We only missed a little bit. Is that you are doing a show tonight with your band, the Sheepdogs?
Yes.
Here in Burnaby.
Correct.
We are in Burnaby, British Columbia.
Beautiful Burnaby.
Is that what they call it?
I don't know. I'll ask the mayor tonight when I meet him.
You're going to meet the mayor. And it is a man? Do you know?
Oh, I guess I did just assume that it was a man.
Yeah,
Although
you did.
100% of the mayors I've met have been men.
How many mayors have you met?
A handful.
Mm-hmm. Who's the best mayor you've ever met?
Oh, I don't know. No one really sticks out to me. I'm not really impressed by politicians.
Ouch, they're all listening.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. Not Saskatoon's mayor. I don't care for him.
Oh, yeah?
He's kind of a dud. I don't know.
Now, you don't live in Saskatoon anymore.
I don't.
You abandoned.
Yes, I abandoned Saskatoon.
For Toronto.
Yes.
The rest of the band? Where are they?
Some of them, my brother and Ryan also, we all moved out. Not at the same time, but...
Okay, so half a year in Toronto.
Yeah, we spent so much time away anyway, but and then we still obviously have family there, so we still have a connection there, but I was felt like a change.
Your brother's in the band now. Is that new?
He's been playing with us for 3 years, but like our new record that's coming out in October, he is playing on that. It's the first time he's been on an album, and so he's about 3 years he's been with us, but now he's a real deal member. So
Is he your little brother?
yes,
Do you treat him like that?
a little bit, but in a good way.
You always got along?
Yeah, he's we're 4 years apart, and I was always much like bigger and stronger than him. But there was never any kind of like, there never was really like that competitive relationship. It was always very much older brother, younger brother, and I think it allowed us to sort of not compete and get along.
You would take him under your wing.
Yeah, that's right.
And protect him.
Yeah,
because he's a tiny little fella.
Well, he's thin. He's a thin dude. But basically, 3 years ago, we have been talking about getting a guy who could play some keyboards live for a long time. And I just said to Seamus, do you think you could figure this out? He could play a little bit of keyboards, but not really. It wasn't his thing.
But it's rock.
It's rock. It's not that hard.
Yeah,
like the old thing about Bob Dylan getting, what's his name, Al Cooper to play on like a Rolling Stone. Like he didn't know how to play keyboards, but it's like a famous, organ part.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. But
just figure out one part and you're good.
It's if you have it's kind of about having taste and then figuring out how to play what you hear, and Seamus is good at that. So he's actually become a really good player.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because he was a trombone player, right?
Yeah, and he actually plays that with us too on a song.
Plays the bone.
He does.
Yeah. Now you guys, Southern rock, is that what it's called? I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know what to call it.
Genres are hard because like people always call us like boogie rock, and which is funny because I don't even know what that means. And
I think it's disco when I think of boogie rock.
Right. I think they mean kind of like that ZZ Top kind of thing.
Yeah. So
right.
What are they considered? Southern.
Well, they're from Texas, so they qualify for Southern. I mean, I don't know. It's just all rock to me.
Just rock, really.
It's hard to put a label. I mean, I find it funny when like interviewers ask me to describe it because I just feel like saying, "Isn't that your job?" Like my job is to write and play it, and that's it.
Here's what you need to know about interviewers.
Yes,
we're very lazy.
I've learned that. Yes, especially radio interviewers.
Guilty, but they've got lots on their plate. Ewan. You've had time to think about your own band.
Yeah, but I don't think about it. And even...
You just do it.
Yeah, because if you think too much about it, I think you sort of hamstring yourself a bit.
So you don't want to give yourself a label?
No.
But it's got a trombone in it. So whatever it is, the label's out the window.
Yeah. Well, we're rock, whatever. It doesn't matter.
I know. To me, it's two kinds of music.
Good and bad.
Good and bad. Who said that?
Oh, surely that's one of those quotes that's misattributed to Yogi Berra or somebody.
That's right. It was Yogi Berra. Yeah. You're right.
Have you seen all those quotes that are supposedly Yogi Berra, but they're like 10% of them he actually said, and
Yeah, and you see that with Einstein too.
Yeah, and Abraham Lincoln
and George Carlin.
Yeah, I believe that. Yeah.
Now Yogi Berra had some good ones, but then people want to jump on that bandwagon.
Well, just anything that was kind of dumb, he got attributed to him, which I'm sure he loved.
But I think it was Duke Ellington who said two kinds of music, good and bad.
Love the Duke. Yeah.
Good. So now we got the window open and the air conditioner on.
Yeah.
But that's all right.
It's a little ambient noise.
Mm-hmm. So, we didn't mention, I think we talked about it when we were still paused, that your album coming out in October has a comedic reference.
Yes. The album is called Future Nostalgia, and that phrase comes from the show Mr. Show, which is maybe my favorite TV show of all time, great comedy. And there's a scene where there's a character, the mayor of television, who I believe they call Windermere Henkin. They have great names on Mr. Show. And he's doing a ribbon cutting ceremony. He's got this big bushy mustache, and as he cuts the ribbon, he says, "Here's to future nostalgia." And I always thought that was a ridiculous phrase, but also kind of cool, and it made me think. And I kind of get obsessed with nostalgia, and just, I mean, we constantly reminisce about the past, and it's such a powerful feeling, and music seems to kind of tap into that in a special way. Like if you hear a song you haven't heard in a long time, or if it reminds you of a time in your life, it's like I'm encountering this now where people have this reverence for music from mid to late 90s, like sort of my age group of people. And it's like, I'm like, but that music sucks. Like that song sucks, or whatever, Third Eye Blind or whatever it is. But they're like, it reminds me of being in school, and I'm just.
Well, that's just it, right?
It's powerful.
It's like watching bad TV when you were a kid. You loved it.
Full
you
House.
recognize it now that it's bad, but there's something. Yeah. It's like comfort food for you.
It is, yeah. Like Full House, Home Improvement, all that kind of
Yeah.
sitcom-y stuff. Yeah.
You watched those?
Yeah, because they were on TV, like 2 episodes every day after school when I was a kid.
Aren't they making a new Full House?
Yeah, but really? We're going down that, what? I don't know.
So you're not going to be watching that. There was a Saved by the Bell reunion too, I think.
Yeah, again, that show was pretty bad too.
Mm-hmm.
I think people are kind of looking back with rose-colored glasses.
Totally. So yeah, like music from the mid '90s, and before that it was the '70s. Everyone said the music from the '70s sucked, but now in enough time passes, and it doesn't suck that bad.
Well, you know what is kind of I've been thinking about lately too is when people say the '70s or the '90s or whatever decade it is, like what do they mean? And when it comes to music, people say the '70s, but the '70s had some pretty distinct musical movements or whatever you want to call it. Like I think usually
And
people
varying, yeah.
very varying, yeah, a lot of variation. Like people say, oh, like about our band, they say we're like a '70s band, and then by that they mean early '70s, and they're talking about Rolling Stones or the Doobie Brothers or something. But then there's also another '70s that would be because it could be disco or it could be New York punk or it could be any number of things. So when people say '70s music, they mean early '70s. When people say I've noticed this when they say '90s music, they mean late '90s because '90s music could encapsulate MC Hammer or like who knows early mid '90s stuff. But they're always talking about when girls I talk to, they're like, oh, we're having a '90s party, and then all the music is like NSYNC and Backstreet Boys, and it's all the tail end of the '90s, Britney Spears and all that stuff. And I'm always like, well, what about the early '90s, man? And
right.
I guess I just hang around people that are a bit younger than me. So.
High school girls.
Well, in the 20s, guy. Come on.
Okay. Yeah. So and like the Allman Brothers, they were '70s, right?
Yeah, they were late '60s, early '70s. I mean, Dwayne Allman died in like '71, I think.
So you guys are the future nostalgia. People will look back at you 30 years from now.
Yes.
The kids, I guess. Kids who are listening to you now.
Yeah.
Is there an age group that listens to you?
It's pretty wide open.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, young kids and really respond to our music, and then all the way through to old people who we remind them of their glory days, I guess, but wide range.
I was thinking your beard is a little more trim now than it was a few years ago.
Yeah.
And you guys had the long hair and the long beard, and you got shorter hair too.
Yeah.
But I remember seeing you a few years ago, and it was a distinctive look. And these days, everybody has a beard.
I know.
In comedy, like every other comedian has a big beard.
Yeah. Well, Galifianakis, your John Doors,
Well, they were ahead of the curve.
Yeah. Or
when Galifianakis had it.
Yeah.
It's like he was one of the only ones.
I mean, Carlin kind of had the classic era of Carlin.
Yeah.
I like when they show the old Carlin and he's like he's wearing a suit and he's clean shaven.
Yeah.
And you're like, who's this guy?
Yeah. Early Pryor too.
Yeah. That's right, yeah, and then everyone thinks of him with a mustache.
You moved to Toronto. I think we mentioned that. Did we mention that?
Yeah, I think
anyway,
we did.
You did.
Yeah, I did.
It's hard to know now. And, of course, a great comedy scene in Toronto. You've taken full advantage of that.
Not really.
Not really. You're more about experiencing comedy on your terms, in the comfort of your room, rather than going out and being with the people, right?
Yeah, I mean, I like podcasts a lot, and I like stand-up specials, although I think I like podcasts more than I like actual just straight stand-up, to be honest, because there's something about
more real.
Yeah, and I love off-the-cuff funny, and it's a different thing. I mean,
do you ever feel though that some of the off-the-cuff funny, you go, wow, that really was average or below average? It's like seeing comedians on Twitter, and you go, wow, you put that out? Like, there's something to be said about choosing what you expose to the world.
Absolutely, yeah.
So it can make you maybe think less of a comic, but unless they're really good at it, some of that organic comedy is great.
Yeah, well, I think they're distinct things. It's kind of like music where the album is different than the live show. The live show's got kind of the warts and all depiction, and maybe thrive. Maybe it's more about the energy than it is about a perfect performance, and then the recording, the record is more about the best portrayal of the band, the smoothest, well put together one. maybe comedy should be like that too. A podcast appearance is off the cuff and loose, and a stand-up special is more of a finely crafted, honed bits. I do appreciate that.
But then I think it's maybe making listeners not like the polished stuff, not appreciate it so much because it sounds too polished.
That's true. It's definitely, that's sort of the art of it, I think, is like the fact that it is kind of, there's an obvious sort of craft to it. But I don't know. To be honest, I haven't gone to a lot. I've been meaning to go, but I just, anytime somebody I want to see comes to town, I'm out of town. So that's the way it goes.
That's Ewan Currie you're listening to. I'm Guy McPherson, and the show is called What's So Funny? The station, CFRO 100.5 FM, Vancouver's co-op radio. Grueling tour you're on. I was looking at it. I mean, I don't know. I wasn't looking at the days, but it goes right through November.
Yeah.
And you're all over Canada, all over the States. You're in the Northeast, you're in the Midwest, you're in the South, you're on the West Coast.
Yeah, we get around.
Jesus. That's good, though, right?
It is.
You must have to play sick a lot of times.
Yeah, I don't get sick too much, or what happens is my knock on wood. My body is really good at like putting up with the sickness, and then as soon as I get like that week off, then my body just falls apart.
Right. So you can't enjoy that week off.
Well, yeah, like I remember we went to a couple years back. I got back from a tour of Spain, and it was a real rough one. Like just tons of early mornings and long drives, and just it was awful. And when I got back to my place in Saskatoon, I was sick for about 5 days, and I didn't eat because my body was just, I think it had been like in sort of like all hands on deck mode for about a year. So
a year, wow.
Yeah, something like that.
So it's just the adrenaline. It's something that the show must go on. You can't just say, I can't make it tonight.
No,
it would be really bad if you did. It would have to be.
I've never missed a show for any kind of ailment, including I had a real bad ankle foot problem a couple years back, and basically had to like play in pain for about a week. Like,
on your ankle, you said?
Yeah. I did a week of shows in throbbing pain. It was pretty brutal. Yeah.
Do you reference it?
No, not at all. I just like to forget about those times. I mean, I came from a football background, so playing through pain is kind of it's a lot different when you're just standing and playing and singing rather than trying to make a tackle or fill the A gap or something. I
read an interview with you where I was thinking is very similar to what I hear from a lot of comedians. A lot of comedians were spurred on to try comedy by seeing bad comedians. Mm-hmm. And you weren't a singer per se.
Yeah.
Until you worked in a bar and you saw some bands and you thought, I'm better than those guys.
Yeah, I've heard that comedian story over and over again.
A lot.
Yeah, where it's like, I'm funnier than this guy. And I've said that.
So it's very important, the role that these bad comics and bad singers play.
Yeah. In
helping develop the confidence of actual talented people.
Well, I think it was just the fact that it was like this bar in Saskatoon, and it was a last day of classes party. So it's like you got all these university girls there, and they're looking fantastic, and they're celebrating last day of classes, and they're dancing to this band that's doing, I think they're doing like a Strokes song, and I like the Strokes, and I knew that song well that they were singing. They were just doing such a bad job of it, and I just thought, God, I could be cleaning up here. This is, this is easy pickings here. So, from there on.
And then, so not self-conscious at all about it. A lot of people are self-conscious about singing in public.
Yeah, I definitely was, like as a young guy.
You were?
Yeah.
But weren't you in some choir?
I was in like sort of musicals and stuff in high school. I was like
wait a second.
Yeah.
Musicals.
Yeah.
Lead roles? What were you?
Yeah, I kind of would get not the main roles, but
because you're a football guy.
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
And in the musical theater.
Yeah, man. Well, best of both worlds, because I love a talented lady. Like I love a lady that can sing or can act or something. So I love the girls that were in drama were the best. I love those girls, and great friends. And then football obviously was a completely different world, very male dominated.
Mm-hmm.
Dudes, so I love being in both worlds.
But was there any stigma from the football guys about you doing this?
I don't think so, because I was I was a good football player. I don't think that I think
what
as
was
long
your
as
position? Do I
played
know that?
linebacker and D line.
Yeah,
defense.
I know what D-line is.
All right.
So what musicals were you in?
Oh man, like Sound of Music.
Who were you?
I was Uncle Max. Oh, I didn't get the captain part. What else? I was in like Fiddler on the Roof. This is good. The Fiddler on the Roof we did.
Were you Tevye?
I was not. It was my grade 12 year. I would have been a great candidate to play Tevye, but our drama teacher, who I actually really liked, but he was a very eccentric man.
Goes with the job.
Yes. It was. I believe it was his last or second last year, and he had always coveted the role of Tevye, and so he cast himself as Tevye.
Oh,
in
really?
a High School Musical, with the explanation that no one had the gravitas to portray this role, and like it's a damn High School Musical.
It was a lifelong dream.
So it was. I liked the guy, but man, it was ridiculous. Like acting in this thing with this teacher playing the character, and a student playing his wife, and all that stuff. So
Inappropriate.
a little bit.
But the great songs.
Yeah, it's a good musical. It's pretty good.
What others? Any others?
Bye Bye Birdie was another one.
It's another great one.
That's
you don't like that one?
That's a corny one.
Yeah, corny's good in musicals.
Well, you
got trouble right here in River City.
It just comes with the territory, I think. Yeah.
I just saw Hairspray the other night in Stanley Park, where you played a few years ago.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm not.
Really
I'm actually not a big musical fan.
No?
No, they're too corny for me.
Well, you might grow into them. You're still a young man.
That's true.
But I liked them when I was your age too.
They were fun to be in.
Fun to be in, but you just don't want to sit through them and watch.
Definitely not. A girl was recently trying to get me to come to see her her theater troupe, and I could not even feign interest. I'm just I'm so hard to.
What a jerk!
I know. I'm so bad at going out to see things. I never ask people to come see my band even. So
the thing that I wouldn't mind the singing in a musical, but when I was watching Hairspray the other night, and you see, I don't know, 20 or 30 people dancing around, and if you take it all in, it looks really good.
Yeah.
But if I focus on one person, I feel embarrassed for them.
Well, because it's such an exaggerated, it's just everything's big, over the top, and and I'm not using this pejoratively, but it's really gay. Like the guys are all very huge, over the top. It's that old time Broadway, sort of over the top expressions, and I definitely like more naturalistic entertainment.
You can't use that expression anymore.
Gay?
Yeah.
Well, I think I know. Well, I thought my little preamble there, excuse me.
You just said it's not pejorative.
Right.
But you didn't explain why it was gay.
Oh, I guess not. Well, I don't know. Musicals are kind of gay inherently anyway. I don't know. No offense.
No, I love them.
Yeah, that's good.
So you're mentioning podcasts. Are there rock podcasts like there are for comedy, where people just talk about rock?
I don't think so. It's funny because I have a couple ideas for podcasts that I'd love to do, but there's so many podcasts. There's just such a glut of them.
I know, but new ones come out, and all of a sudden they're really popular.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Are others falling off the wayside?
I'm not sure, but it does seem dominated by comedians, and then other than that, it seems to be more of the sort of inquisitive, scientific, Freakonomics nature. Like it doesn't seem like there's a music thing.
And so your ideas are musical.
Well, one of them was kind of like musicians talking musicians. Well, basically me talking musicians, but talking about things. I don't know, because musicians are always interviewed by media types.
Yeah,
and they don't really know the ins and outs of what it's like to be a musician or to be in a touring band. And I thought that having some of those insights would help to sort of ask more interesting questions.
True, and also musicians amongst
other.
themselves are very funny.
Absolutely, and they can relate. I mean, just looking at all these podcasts where you have comedians talking to comedians, it's a great connection. They have. I'm always amazed at how all these comedians are buddies with each other. It's amazing. I wish more bands were like that, but it doesn't seem to be the case.
Are they more competitive, you think?
I think so. I think we're a little more competitive. Also, we have our little cliques already, whereas comedians are rolling solo, so I think they're more sort of apt to buddy up, I think.
Yeah, because a comedy show will be 5 to 10 comics on a show, so everyone congregates.
And they're just hanging out, and then there's you don't have your gang of bandmates.
You play a show, there might be 1 or 2 bands ahead of you.
Well, yeah, or like last night, there was a whole bunch of bands, but I could easily have just stayed with my 4 guys. So.
Mm-hmm. So, but I think you should do this podcast because,
Yeah.
as you say, there aren't many of them. So there are a lot of podcasts out there, but you'd be filling a niche.
It's true. I just wonder about, and you could probably provide some insight into this, but getting guests and tracking people down seems like it might be a bit of a headache.
It was not a headache to get you.
Well, I'm easy. I'm not a good get, as they say in the biz. I'm easy to get.
Well, there's got to be, I mean, you know people. Hey, you want to do my show? Great. Love to.
Working on it.
Or
We'll
not.
see.
Yeah, you get a few in the can.
I have another idea, but I don't want to say it on here in case someone steals it. But it's a good idea.
It's a good one.
I'll tell you afterwards.
Not music.
No, it's a discussion. It's a. I won't get it. I'll tell you later.
All right.
Oh, well, I'll just tell you. It's not that good actually. The idea is, it'd be called Unpopular Opinion, and each episode you'd take an opinion or opinions that maybe is controversial or unpopular, and maybe dive into it and explore it. And really, the key to it is our tour manager, Donnie Cooper, who's quite a character. He's very interesting. I've had many a good barroom discussion with this guy, and he's one of these guys that has the rare gift of just speaking his opinion regardless of whether it's popular or not, and
whether it could be offensive or anything.
Exactly. And that is, to me, is gold, because I think what I like most about podcasts is that you have people, because of the platform, it's not heavily regulated by like a network or corporation media companies for the most part, and people speak really freely. And so when I hear people like Jim Norton or those kinds of guys that or like an Adam Carolla or something, where they say whatever they think, whatever they feel, and it's really sort of like it's amazing to hear people talk so freely, because when you turn on the TV, you just see a lot of people being phony and trying to show the best side of themselves and not being real.
Or even on Facebook.
Oh, unbelievable.
There's accepted opinion.
Yes.
We all know that is the right way of thinking, but sometimes we don't necessarily agree with it completely. But to go out and say that, or to bring up a different way of thinking, you would just be piled on, and people would think that you're a racist or you're a homophobe or whatever the topic that they're talking about is. So people don't say anything, rather than having a discussion about it and going, well, what do you mean by that?
Absolutely. And
let's talk about this, and what about this aspect of it and that aspect?
And that would be the purpose of it, is to we'd try to get into it, and instead of it just being a blanket statement, or we'd actually try to get into discussion about it and try and see the shades of gray and try to actually learn something. So,
do you have a lot of unpopular opinions?
Yeah, I think I do.
Do you?
Yeah.
I know you listened to the Norm Macdonald interview I did.
Yes.
There was one thing he said on that. He said, there are some things that I will never say.
Yes.
You remember that? Did you hear that?
I do. He gets that was very dark.
Yeah. But he said there's just some opinions that I have that I'll never say because they're too, I don't think he said unpopular, but that's the gist of it.
I have some beliefs that are too inflammatory to even discuss, unfortunately.
Because of the way they'll be taken.
Because there are certain things in society that you're not allowed to believe or speak publicly. Mm-hmm. And so I'll just never say them. I'll just leave them in my little head.
Well, sometimes he gets into trouble on Twitter, I notice. I mean, he supported Bill Cosby probably longer than most people did. And you'd see other comedians sort of chastising him. Like I remember Judd Apatow and
Judd Apatow, yeah.
And Patton Oswalt.
Yeah, I know you're a Norm Macdonald fan. Have you been watching Last Comic Standing?
No, I haven't. I heard he's on there, though.
He's a judge. So I just watched it for the first time yesterday. I saw episode 3, and then I went back and saw half of the first episode.
Yeah.
He's a good judge. Sometimes he will say overly positive things for what I think is an average comic up there. And I go, what? Like he'll say, that's the best 3.5 minutes of comedy I've heard in the last 5 years. I go, wow, they must have edited a lot out. But other times he is to the point, and not nice, but in a nice way.
Yeah.
Like he was telling one woman that she shouldn't do stand up. She's funny and she should be an actress and let other or comedic actress and let other funny people write for her. And I
Right.
thought, wow. And she goes,
Yeah.
"Well, I'll try harder." And he goes, "No, don't try. Just get go to
Stop.
the groundlings and get other people to write for you."
That's another idea we had was somebody who would their job was to go around telling people who were pursuing foolhardy pursuits to knock it off. Like, and we're gonna get my dad, who's a very sort of like well-spoken, stern guy. We're gonna get him to like, because we're using this example with the musicians. People who have been pursuing this musical dream and it's never gonna happen. He just goes, "Look, I'm here to tell you that." You're not quite talented enough. Your voice isn't special. Your songwriting hasn't progressed any in the years. He breaks it down for you and explains in a very matter-of-fact way that it's time to give up on that dream and move on to another thing.
Still pursue it in your privacy of your own home.
Absolutely. But it's time to start thinking about maybe trying a different avenue to save some money, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I've thought that with amateur comics who've been doing it for a few years, and you don't see any progression. And I think, hey, God bless you. You tried it. You persevered. It's not working out. I really respect those comics that just walk away from it and quit and go, yeah,
It wasn't working.
wasn't working.
Yeah.
I love doing it, but I don't see that I'm getting anywhere with it. But I guess there are enough stories where really successful comics after 20 years, they'll say, don't give up, right? And so there's always that hope. The farther you go with it, that finally it's going to click. You're going to get something.
I read that one of those Freakonomics books had a section on quitting and how knowing when to quit is actually an important skill.
Mm-hmm.
But in our society, we do a lot of like never give up and you can do anything if you put your mind to it. Well, I think can be kind of misleading advice sometimes.
Yeah, but what do you think of like Seinfeld's quit in the middle of, Seinfeld was still popular. He didn't wait till it became unpopular. And now Jon Stewart's walked away from The Daily Show.
Mm-hmm.
He could have gone on for years doing that. I always think, ride it into the ground.
Oh, yeah.
Don't go out on top. People won't forget that you were great at one point. They won't go, oh, look at him, he's terrible, so he was always terrible. People know. It's like it's the jump in the shark thing with Happy Days. People still remember when it was good, not when it became bad.
Do they? Is that what they do?
I think so. Maybe that's just me.
It's hard to say. I mean, I understand Jerry Seinfeld quitting because, he had so much success, made so much money, and probably worked really hard for 20 years that he probably just wanted to do other things. Like, I don't blame him.
He didn't do any other thing, though.
Well, and now he makes his little Coffee with Cars or whatever that show is.
You watch it?
Yeah, I watch a bunch of them.
It's great.
Yeah.
I love it.
I enjoy it.
Yeah.
I love Bill Burr, but I didn't like his episode on that.
I like that one, too.
The Louis C.K. one where he tells the story of getting his boat stuck was the best.
With the animation.
Yeah.
That was good, too. A lot of good ones, yeah. You're listening to What's So Funny on CFRO 100.5 FM, Vancouver Co-op Radio. I'm Guy McPherson. Our guest this week is the Sheepdogs lead singer, Ewan Currie. Yeah, so do you ever think down the road about the Sheepdogs? Do you go how long can we ride this out?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's
because you want to keep going
absolutely
till you're playing the casinos in your 60s.
Well, I do think about that kind of thing. I think something that's helped us a lot. We do quite well in Canada, but we still are have a lot of room to grow in other parts of the world. But here in Canada, we can play, going back to the thing about meeting all the mayors, we can play all these little places because that's a real, to be able to fill your summer with these shows in these little places is a real big help because it helps to sort of supplement, the Torontos and the Vancouvers and the Montreals to be able to play these little areas. Oh, towns of 1,000 people, but it's all the little townships that come to it. And it's their big summer event and that kind of thing. And just what I mean when I talk about a show like that is it's a certain type of, I don't know. When we talk about a career, how long can the band go for and things like that, I look at somebody like a Tragically Hip or a Blue Rodeo, these bands that they've sort of they've done quite well, and now maybe they're not when their new release comes out, it isn't like the biggest story or anything, but they can keep going back and forth across Canada, doing their thing. They don't have to go do any other job. Like, it's a real solid living.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've been a band for 11 years, and I see all these bands. I've seen so many bands break up in the time that we've been a band. So, yeah, I do wonder.
Bands with some name recognition?
Yeah. Not that I could name off the top of my head right now, but
yeah.
I mean, just it's a tough thing to keep together for that long. Like, it's such a volatile thing.
Because of the individuals within the band and as well as the business?
The individuals in the band, the nature of, like right now, I'm kind of discombobulated. I'm drinking coffee and, because we had a late night and an early morning and a flight and trying to get ready to play a show tonight. And it's a stressful, way to go about it. It's a especially when you throw in booze and drugs and all that kind of stuff too. It just makes everything more complicated.
Well, you don't have to do that.
That's right.
You have a choice.
I know. I wasn't saying me. I was just saying bands in general.
Yeah, it's out there.
Yeah.
Well, with the touring, how many times a year do you go out and give it a good long tour?
Well, it's kind of comes and goes. It depends on how close you are to your album coming out. So we've been off cycle for like 2 summers. They say off cycle meaning you haven't had a recent release. But we still had really busy summers because we can go and play these little areas, and that's really cool because once you get a couple 2-3 years off your album coming out, then a lot of places don't really want to book you because you don't have that media attention or that story behind you.
There always needs to be a hook, I guess. But it's funny because nobody wants to hear songs off your new album.
No, I know what you're saying.
Just play the hits.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, yeah. Like who did I go see that just played all? I go see a lot of old bands like the old sort of Steve Millers and Stevie Wonders and all that.
I've seen both of those.
Yeah, and then you always get bummed when they play the new songs, right? You go get a beer for that part.
Well, Stevie Wonder, that was a fantastic show.
Did you see the Songs in the Key of Life tour?
When was that? You mean he only did Songs in the Key of Life?
I saw him in Toronto, and he played the entire Songs in the Key of Life album in sequence, including the bonus.
Yeah, the
little
instrumental.
The little extras that he played those, and it was so good.
I know that song.
Incredible.
Yeah, he's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
I know that we talked before, like some of the guys that you love listening to. I know you love Artie Shaw.
Yeah, I'm a big Artie Shaw fan. Yeah.
Clarinetist from the 30s, 40s.
Yeah. Married to Ava Gardner.
Speaking of quitting young.
Yeah, he quit and he went to Mexico or something.
Yeah, he's just at the peak of his fame, or
yes,
shortly
absolute.
after?
It was in the 30s. It was at the absolute height of his fame. He was like probably the most famous musician in America. And then he went down to Mexico and hid out because he's one of these guys that was real smart and hated the sort of had a love-hate relationship with his fame and popularity.
Yeah.
And he went down to Mexico and hid out for a while and kind of listened to the music down there. And then he made a comeback, and I think his first hit was Frenesy, which is...
Oh, was that after he...
Yeah, because he heard it down in Mexico, because it's a song about Mexico or something. I don't really know the whole story, but... And so then he came back with that song.
Great song.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, and then he lived a long life out of the spotlight.
Yeah, and I think he like wrote fiction and
oh, I
all
didn't know
kinds of
that.
stuff. Yeah.
So, but these don't seep into your music that we get to hear.
Well, yeah.
I mean, these kind of influences.
Well, I mean, I'm a big believer in kind of like staying in your lane and doing what you're good at. And
are you saying you're not good at anything else?
I think I can do other things, but I think I need to put more time in before I share those things with the world. I think that we've spent a lot of years working at playing rock music, and I think the more that we keep it within that realm, the better the better chance we have to shine, I guess.
Because you met one of the guys in your band in the clarinet section of a concert band.
That's right. Yeah.
Who was that?
Ryan, our bass player.
Ryan.
He was a bad player, by the way.
A bad clarinet player?
Yes.
He was in the bottom section.
Yeah, I think we only had first, and we had like lead and second. He was a second, and I was a first.
And you were first?
Mind you, it was not cool to be good at clarinet in 1997.
You were the only boys, probably.
No, there were other boys, but
okay. You both have that concert band background.
Yeah.
Was it a conscious decision? Did you guys talk about, no, we're just going to play straight ahead rock music, or you got together and jam? How did that work? Were you all knew what kind of music you'd be playing?
Yeah, I don't know. I think we were listening to we were kind of listening to like, we were really into sort of guitar bands. And so it was like, you're kind of like Rolling Stones and Cream and that kind of stuff. So it was very much like a blues rock guitars, late 60s, early 70s influence at that time. I think we also listened a lot to like, at that time there was like a lot of Strokes and the Vines, and the first Kings of Leon album. People who know that album will know what I'm talking about, but it was a really, really cool record that was very rock and roll, sort of old school, sort of garage rock sounding album, very different than what they became. We were really into that record. It was just like kind of like, Creedence Clearwater Revival and the Kinks were like the two records that I always listened to in my car. So it was very much like that world.
How old were you then?
I was 19, 20, yeah, around there. It was very much like that was the music that like, it seemed, to put it, I'll put it even in racial terms, it just seemed like young white men, this was like the music that we made, and it seemed within our grasp, like rather than say like maybe trying to rap or DJ or it seemed, for some reason it seemed like we could credibly pull this off.
Because you and Ryan bonded over funk and soul records.
Yes. Yeah.
But you didn't go in that direction. Because you didn't see it as an avenue you could go down.
So like maybe if
being white guys from Saskatoon.
Well, I mean, it's tough to play. To play soul and funk really effectively. Like you see a lot of those bands around and they're whatever, but a really tasteful soul or funk band, like say the Daptones, like who back Sharon Jones and all that kind of stuff, or if you see Charles Bradley, like that's a real tasteful type of music that to play that requires really great restraint and it actually takes chops to play that simply and that refined. And I was more of a ham-fisted sort of, strum the guitar and Pete Townsend type of style. Like it just wasn't quite in my wheelhouse. I love it, but I couldn't quite pull it off.
Ham-fisted?
Yeah, I have kind of chunky hands.
But you're nimble. You're nimble on the fret.
I can get around a little bit. Yeah, not too bad.
A little bit.
A little bit.
Now, you also play the piano.
A little bit.
A little bit. Yeah. Compared to your brother, how? When
Seamus joined us, we probably played at about the same level.
Oh, and now that was pretty good then.
Yeah. But now he's way better. Mm-hmm. He can play all kinds of stuff now. So
yeah, it's just the two siblings.
Yeah,
both in music, just like the old man.
Yeah,
is he still teaching?
Yeah, a little bit. He works at a church in Saskatoon. He leads a choir in the music program there. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Because he was teaching and composing, right?
Yeah. For many years he was a composer, but he hasn't done as much recently. Now he mostly just emails me about the Blue Jays.
Because you're a big baseball fan.
Yeah.
More so than football?
No.
Still football's number one.
Football is
NFL.
NFL is the greatest thing ever.
That's boring. Who's your team?
Well, I like the Raiders, but they've been bad for about 12 years. So, to be honest, I just like watching the game.
Any game.
Whatever. I like watching the best teams.
Or Sunday, yeah.
Yeah,
you don't jump off a bandwagon when a team has had a run of bad luck, Ewan.
Well, I know, but the Raiders they were in the Super Bowl, I think, in like 2002, and then they haven't made the playoffs since, and they've actually been the worst team in football since then. Yeah.
Over those years.
Yes.
Not every single year, though.
No, but I think combined record, they are the worst team. But the playoffs is it's just such a different thing. It's in all sports. It just, everything changes, and all of a sudden guys that comfortably, achieved all year long start to press a little bit, and they don't, I don't believe that people rise to the occasion. I think that they maintain. I think when the playoffs come and the crazy pressure comes along, it causes people to drop off. And the true test is if you can maintain through that pressure and keep your level of play up. And, watching the Raptors the last couple of years.
That's where you really developed that theory?
Well, man, they just look, the Raptors have had a couple great seasons, but in the playoffs, they just look lost.
Mm-hmm. Coaching. It's coaching.
They kept him. Dwayne Casey.
Do you know Dwayne Casey and I had drinks?
Really?
Before he was in the NBA.
How did that happen?
He was in Japan. He was in Kyoto. And he was there coaching some team. And I played basketball a lot. And I was introduced, and I didn't know who he was. And we were talking. He said he played at Kentucky. And when I saw him when he was assistant coaching in Seattle, I said, hey, remember? We had drinks. And he remembered.
Nice.
It was 22 years ago.
He seems like a good guy.
He's a good guy, yeah.
Not that matters when it
No,
comes
it
to
doesn't.
coaching.
Hey, guys, it's me, the guy that was just talking a second ago. Yeah, still me. But I want you to know that you're listening to CFRO 100.5 FM, Vancouver's cooperative radio station. I'm Guy McPherson, and our guest this week is Ewan Currie, and here we are again talking. Anyway, so you at home you'll play music and you will you follow sports, listen to podcasts.
I do.
Do you have any other secret interests?
Really, music and sports are like my two favorite things.
Do you read?
I do read, yeah. I just read that Expos book by Jonah Carey, that Up and Away book. The history of the Expos.
I love the Expos.
Yeah, that was my dad's team. So
Andre Dawson,
Tim Raines.
Timmy
Raines. For me, it was Larry Walker and Moises Alou, like those
later,
the '94 team.
Yeah.
I like reading nonfiction a lot. I try to flip between nonfiction and fiction.
So nonfiction. Well, the baseball is nonfiction, but is it always sports related nonfiction?
I've read a lot of music bios, which is I actually think of as like kind of like I read so many rock bios that by the time I actually started doing the band thing, I think I had a healthy fear of what the party lifestyle and hard drugs can result in. So I think that kind of put me in good stead.
Did you read the Keith Richards bio or
No.
autobiography?
Life is it that one?
It's a very thick one. I know.
No, but Ryan, our bass player, read it and he said that he was bummed when he read it because like he would go on these long detailed jags about things and then completely gloss over a major event in his life. Like he would talk all on and on and on and on, and on about a certain thing and then go, and then we made Exile on Main Street. Next chapter. And you'd be like, well, can we get some that's what I want to know about.
Yeah, you think a book that thick would have touched on everything.
Exactly.
Or expanded on everything.
Yeah.
What do you learn from reading an autobiography or a biography, musical biography? Is there anything, or is it just interesting to you?
It's interesting. I don't know. Like definitely, the cautionary tales. Like I read David Crosby's. He has two autobiographies. The first one I read, which is the classic Crosby, Stills, Nash years in the '70s and everything. Unbelievable how far in addiction he was. And like basically smoking crack cocaine before that was even a known thing because he had done so much cocaine that had ruined his. He'd basically decayed all the passages in his nose so that he had to find another way to get high. And
did he invent crack cocaine?
In a way he did. Yeah. Like Al Gore invented the internet. That kind of stuff. I mean, it's funny because like when the musician writes their own book, it's always like so much. I actually I do like an autobiography, but I prefer when it's like written by somebody else because then you're going to get the sort of like the warts, like because I like the dirty stories. I like the sort of salacious stuff.
So you do appreciate journalists.
Oh sure, when they're good,
they have a role.
Yeah.
So when it comes down to the Ewan Currie biography.
Who's going to read that?
Well, who knows? 30 years' time.
I got to do some more things.
You probably would want to do it yourself or control the person writing it because you're the artist.
Of course.
Right? But as a reader, you prefer reading.
Of course. I want it to portray me in a great light, but as a reader probably wants to read the truth. And
they want somebody to go to different sources.
Yes.
Yeah, collect all the information, put it together, not just your version of events.
One of the best books I read was a couple of years ago. Greg Allman put out a book from his perspective, and he tells a lot of stories that are unflattering to him. So that I like that. I appreciated that, and there's like amazing stories in there about his marriage to Cher, and
yeah, that's right.
All that stuff
lasted about a year.
Yeah. And basically, like their first date, he was high on heroin. Like he was just such a junkie. And there's like great stories about them going on tour together and how it was just ridiculous because their audiences were so different.
Yeah.
And so you'd look out in the crowd and you'd see like, sort of like more square type of guys in like tuxedos getting into fights with dudes in Levi's. And like, it was like sort of the Allman Brothers crowd fighting the Cher crowd. It was just a wild,
Is it hard to stay away from those pitfalls? Or you come across them often?
I think I don't think it's that hard personally. I think probably just because of my background, came from a pretty decent family, and I think I just had a pretty good. Feel like I've got a good head on my shoulders and all that kind of cliche crap and stuff, but definitely like it's easy to just. I mean, when every night when you got 24 beer in your green room on ice and a bottle of booze, it's pretty easy to dip into it, with
Right.
regularity.
Right, but you don't have heroin in the green room.
No. I actually I've never seen that in person.
Guys get into the harder drugs just because of the tough schedule, and they need to get up and then get down.
I think that's part of it. I think when the travel and everything takes a lot out of you, and when you have to like go on stage, you can't, like a lot of jobs people do, you can kind of go in and half-ass it and kind of just punch the clock, and when your 8-hour shift is done, you leave. And when you go on stage, you have to kind of give people the best version of you, you have to give them energy. And
yeah,
so I get why that causes people to turn to some of those things. But just the hours that you work and the places, being in bars, and I mean, I think cocaine use is like pretty prevalent right now. It seems in the cities that I go to, it's a pretty common bar thing. It's just around, and not just music circles. I think just in the bar scene in general.
Yeah, I certainly hear lots of reference to it from comedians, and I always just think, where are you hanging out? Of course, I'm an old guy, so I don't see it.
Yeah.
In fact, I think I saw it when I was a kid once at one of my mom's parties.
Yeah,
and I thought it was snuff.
Oh yeah, I still don't know what that is.
Isn't it? Don't they just sniff it up their
I remember
nose?
buddies of mine were doing it at a bar and like
Snuff.
It's snuff.
So that isn't a narcotic, or not like illegal narcotic.
I don't know.
So only in retrospect did I think, maybe that was cocaine the guy was doing.
It could have been. It probably at that time it wasn't thought of as an evil thing. It was just a fun party drug or something.
Yeah. At my mom's house parties.
Your mom sounds pretty swinging.
She was pretty swinging. Almost time to go. You got a show to prepare for. In the rain, by the way.
Yeah. Good
or has it let up? It'll be okay.
I think it's all right.
It's at the Burnaby Blues. No, what is it? Burnaby Blues and
Roots
and Blues Festival?
Yeah.
You guys are headlining?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know much about these shows. I just show up.
Show up? Tour manager says go here?
Well, the good thing is people always ask me, like, what do you know about this festival? And I'm always like, well, the bad news is I don't know anything about the town or what the festival is. But the good news is it doesn't matter. We're going to, put on our best damn show possible. So that's all that matters,
Yeah. And you'll know what the mayor is like.
Yeah, I can't wait to meet another Canadian mayor. It's going to be great.
With a monocle.
Well, yeah, and a cane.
Yeah.
And spats.
So what do they tell you? Oh, the mayor wants to meet you?
Yes.
And he wants to meet you right before the show?
Yes. Yes.
He just wants to make sure you guys are okay.
Yeah, I think usually it's like they're a fan and they kind of put the requests in, and we're pretty easygoing. So they pop in, do a photo, and I think they maybe like post it on social media and get a little cred or whatever.
Mm-hmm. They get some street cred with the voters.
So. Yeah.
They're hip.
I suppose. I don't know how hip the Sheepdogs are, but.
So then do you ever feel like you are getting into the politics of it where you're supporting somebody?
Not so far. I remember when we were kind of starting to get a name for ourselves in 2011. I remember it was when we were in that big Rolling Stone competition and we were trying to get people to vote for us. And at that time, I remember we got offered like $1,000, which was a lot of money at that time, to play some kind of local NDP gig. And I remember our manager just at the time just said, we're going to pass on this gig because we don't want to align ourselves with a political party that might alienate people from supporting us in this competition, because we're not looking. And I remember thinking, oh my God, we're passing on $1,000. This is insane. And he's just like, don't worry. Down the line, this is going to be very small change and you're not going to care about it.
That's right.
And it was, you know what? That was a really good move because eventually that $1,000 didn't matter. And, I don't like the way that politics is so divisive, and I can get along with people of all kinds of politics. It doesn't matter if we disagree on things. If we just talk about things that aren't politics, if we just enjoy music.
Talk about those unpopular opinions.
Exactly. Or even, I think that's the problem with some of the political discourses, or most of the political discourses, that when you establish that you have differing opinions, you just go into fight mode, and it's never about trying to understand each other. It's about demonstrating that you're right, and it's a frustrating thing.
Yeah, I just spoke to Colin Mockery the other day.
Another great show that I used to watch after school in
Whose Line?
Whose Line?
Yeah.
With Clive Anderson, the English one.
Oh, the English one. They just did that in June back in England. They had a reunion.
That was the best. Unbelievable how good that show was.
Anyway, he did a show for the White House press dinner or something, and this was during the Bush administration. He had who's that blowhard who was bigger guy?
Karl Rove.
Karl Rove. He had Karl Rove up there, and they were doing a rap with him or whatever. But he said it was just a job. He goes there, but some people, some political people who maybe hated the Bushes or the Republicans, they might say, "Oh, well, he's a sympathizer."
Yes.
When really, no, he's just going to put on a show.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I agree. I know we took a picture with Stephen Harper one time.
Yeah,
and for some people that was just like, how could you? And I was just like, oh, he's the prime minister. He wanted to meet us. I was like, cool.
Yeah, good thing you're not on the meme.
What's that?
There's one of Harper with the Nickelback guy.
Oh, Chad Kroeger.
Chad Kroeger.
I met him too. I want to meet all these people. I find it's interesting.
Yeah, so there's these internet memes out there
of the two of those
basically
guys.
saying a vote for Harper is a vote for Nickelback, and everybody hates Nickelback, and yet they're hugely popular.
Yeah, that's such a like that idea that nobody likes Nickelback, like that people say. It's such a sort of egocentric view. Like they're selling out stadiums.
Yeah.
Tons of people like Nickelback.
And it's like on your Facebook feed, nobody likes Harper, and yet he keeps getting elected.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, yeah. I having moved to Toronto, I encounter that a lot, where people forget that downtown, the opinion of downtown Toronto is not the opinion of an entire nation.
Yeah. Hey, did you ever meet Rob Ford?
I didn't actually. We played a thing at South by Southwest just this past May or April, whenever it is, and we were hanging out at this Canadian party, and the MC's like, we got this going on, we got that going on, and the mayor of Toronto is here, and I was like, oh my god, we gotta find Rob Ford and drink a beer. Oh, it's that John Tory guy. Who cares?
Who cares? Not quite the
Not the
name. Yeah,
no.
That's right. Have you ever read any comedians' autobiographies or biographies?
Yeah. Well, I think I read when I was in elementary school. I think I read Tim Allen's biography.
How was that?
Which is pretty good because he went to jail for selling coke.
Yeah. Did you know that when you started the book?
I did not, and I thought it was pretty interesting. I think I read Jay Leno as well.
He had one?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Or maybe it was about him. I used to really like Jay Leno when I was a kid.
That's when he was good.
I guess so. Well, I mean, it's funny to hear like the comedians talk about what a like force of nature he was when he was,
when he would go on Letterman. It was you can't miss TV.
Right. And I saw some quote from Letterman where he said that he was like the guy, basically.
Yeah, he was.
He was just such a force.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think I've read Artie Lang, his book.
Speaking of addictions.
Too Fat to Fish. That's a pretty entertaining memoir. Yeah, I've read a few of those of different ones. Yeah,
not as good as the rock ones though. A little more lightweight.
Yeah, I think just because the music thing, they cover so much more of the world, and they just kind of hit a different kind of plane. Although, I think the comedian ones have a different strength in that comedians are constantly analyzing. They have analytical minds, and sort of I think that self-deprecating gene that they have gives them a good perspective. I think that helps them with their writing. It's more interesting. It's more, I don't know. It's not as just like grandiose, and it's a little more, I don't know. It just suits me better, I think.
I'm going to end with a few questions.
Okay.
Taking a random from my Ziploc bag of questions. Okay. These are questions that I didn't write.
All right.
But they may be interesting.
It's not like that Proust questionnaire or whatever it is.
Could be.
Okay.
First question. Is it true that you're always on?
Hell no. No.
This was asked to Mel Brooks, who seemingly is always on.
He is kind of, he does seem like he's always on.
Yeah. Now, I read that you, as a kid, you like to be in the center of attention.
Sure.
You seem more low-key now. You got over that, or you still like it?
No, I mean, I like being the center of attention, but it's always like on my terms. I definitely enjoy just putting on a ball cap and going to a baseball game, or just hanging with a couple of friends. Like I I kind of been describing myself as I like a lot of pretentious things, like I like Artie Shaw and jazz, and I like stuff like that. But I try to live my life unpretentiously. Like I drive a real simple car, and I just rent a apartment. Like I don't have a real flashy life, and so I like being the center of attention and recognized for, I guess, my skill. Like I like when people say I'm a good singer, or that they like my music or whatever, but I'm not looking to be like a personality or a celebrity or like I don't, that doesn't appeal to me, I guess.
When you hit the stage and the crowd is out there cheering,
Love it.
do you become somebody else kind of?
A little bit of an entertainer. Like I try to be a little more of like I always
You get big like the musicals.
Well, yeah, that definitely, I mean, you could learn from that, projecting and sort of amplifying your personality to be an on-stage personality to reach the people at the back of the room or wherever. But I always thought of music as like this spectrum of art and entertainment on either end, and your music kind of falls somewhere in the middle. And I always lean more towards the music side, than the entertainment side, rather than the art side. I always appreciated like James Brown, crazy entertainer, just was all about entertainment, and just if you brought him in, he was going to give you the best damn show possible, whether that meant he was berating the shit out of his band and fining them and all that kind of stuff. I always really respect that. I went and saw Prince recently in Toronto, and really loved the entertainment. Really loved the show that he put on, the spectacle, and I respected
Never seen
that.
him. I love Prince.
Yeah, he was pretty much everything you would expect from Prince, man. But so I'm not a Prince or a James Brown. I don't have that level. I mean, they're like singular legends. They're pretty amazing. But
You need more sequins.
Yeah, I know. Well, yeah, I weigh probably more than those two guys combined. Though they were tiny little men.
Yeah.
But I respect, and I like when a guy is putting in the effort to entertain a crowd, and I respect that. And I never really liked music where this shoegaze music where they're sort of shy and they're looking down at their feet, and they're or like when Tom York from Radiohead talks about how it sort of it pains him to be on stage, and it kind of drives me nuts because I want people to be there and want to entertain.
I saw Oasis at the Commodore.
Yeah.
I guess before they became really huge.
When was that? 95 or something?
Probably, yeah, around there.
I was living here in the city then.
Oh, as a kid.
I was 10, 11 years old.
I didn't really know them. I went because friends told me, and I loved them. And who is it, Noah or Liam?
Noel.
Liam.
The two brothers.
The lead guy.
Liam.
I don't know if this is something he always did, but he stood at a mic that was in a stand, hands by his side.
Yeah, and sang something to it.
And then he never moved and didn't show any, rhythm in his body language. And then when he wasn't singing, he'd just sort of stand off to the side. And a friend of mine who really knows his music hated him for that, and I loved it. Because I come from watching jazz. They're not putting on a show.
Care.
Most of them.
Yeah,
it's about the music. And so this guy wasn't. Maybe he was purposefully. Because everyone else was moving around. I liked that he was standing there kind of like a Keely Smith with the insanity of Louis Prima. She would stand there and not emote at all.
Right.
Yeah,
I got no problem with that. I mean, he would sing his heart out, and that's just being himself. I mean, you don't have to dance like a madman up there.
Yeah.
And if I didn't have a guitar strapped to me, I don't know what I would do, as a singer. You feel naked without it. So.
Yeah, it gives you can use your hands.
Yeah.
Someplace to put your hands.
No, I got no problem with that. I mean, case by case basis,
Yeah. Did you get compared your voice to anybody?
Yeah. Most part, it's like Burton Cummings.
Yes, that's who I was going to say.
You're going to say that?
Yeah.
So, yeah, Burton Cummings is the big one. Obviously, the Prairie connection helps there.
Have you met him?
I have not. I met a lot of his peers, but not him. I don't know where I think he lives mostly in the States now, but he's kind of a bizarre character. Like, I always tweet at him, and he never responds.
And does he use Twitter much?
Yeah, he goes on there, but he mostly uses it as like a way for him to sort of. He doesn't really use it as a two-way street. It seems. It's just for him to he writes in all caps too, which is hilarious.
That's an old man thing.
Yeah, it is.
He gave my dad his Juno.
Oh, he presented it to him?
Presented it to him, yeah.
Yeah. How drunk was he when he gave it to your dad?
I don't know.
Probably hammered, because he seems like he's always
I
hammered.
think he was hosting, and then Count Basie was actually going to give it to him, but I don't think he could stand up, so Burton Cummings gave it to him.
I got a good quick Burton
Yeah.
Cummings story. Our guitar player Rusty was doing a tribute to the Guess Who back when Juno was in Winnipeg a long time ago. They're having the rehearsal, and everybody's there except for Burton. Finally, car pulls up. Burton gets out, wearing sweats, looking real haggard, and he's drinking right out of a carton of half and half cream.
What?
Yeah, which I'm sure looked great in his mustache. And the first he looks up at Rusty and he goes, "Got any smokes?" He's quite a character.
Was that a follower, a chaser, the cream?
Who knows,
to,
man? He's a
Kahlua, a bottle of Kahlua.
he was kind of like a legendary drunken buffoon. He was just he did it. He went for it. He was like, he had the best voice.
His voice, yeah.
He's the best.
A lot of Canadian singers really do have that golden voice.
Yeah, I don't know what it was, but it was amazing.
Yeah. See what we got just on that one question Are You
Yeah.
Always On?
That was pretty good.
Pretty good. So I'll give you one more.
All right.
Random. Here it is. Okay, this was asked to Bono.
Okay, my favorite.
I don't know what we'll get out of this. What role is he your favorite?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't care for him at all.
Yeah, I don't like you too. I find them boring.
I also find you too boring. Yeah.
Yeah. What role did religion play in your childhood?
Oh, almost none.
None.
Yeah.
So you're an atheist, heathen.
I guess. I mean, to be honest, I really don't think that much about religion. I find a lot of my peers to be pretty anti-religious, and I wouldn't classify myself as that either. It doesn't bother me that people are religious.
You just don't think about it.
I don't think about
It's
it.
not part of your day-to-day life.
No, and when people talk about atheism, it seems like they're like, sometimes people are so committed to atheism and there is no God, and that it's almost like a religion. And like I prefer to like just kind of, to me, I just don't, it's not really part of my life. I just don't think about it.
That's right. Well, the term atheist, it automatically assigns you something, whereas rather the actual meaning of it is just not theistic.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, do you believe in God? Well, no, but I don't even think about it.
Yeah, it's just not really something that's part of my life.
It's not a belief that I have, but it's not an anti-belief.
Right. Yeah. Well,
Right? And that's the distinction there.
whatever part of my brain that would normally be involved in that is free to obsess over
Baseball stats.
football. Yeah, baseball stats and yeah, exactly.
Thank God for that.
Yes.
All right, Ewan. That was fun. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Good luck with the show tonight
Thank you.
at Deer Lake. Hope the rain holds off. Good luck with your podcast. I hope you do them.
We'll see. I'm tempted. There's so many podcasts, and like seems like
Yeah, but not what you're doing.
that's true.
It's not just two guys talking. They would have a purpose to it. One, there aren't a lot of music ones.
Correct.
By guys in recognizable name bands. And two, there's no one about specific unpopular opinion.
I agree, and I think to be honest, the thing that scares me is I spoke earlier about guys like Jim Norton and Adam Carolla, guys who are unafraid to talk about themselves and their lives and their opinions, even if it makes them seem, maybe it makes them seem like a pervert or a bigot or something, even though I don't think they are. But I don't know. I think I have too much shame. I can't bring myself to speak completely truthfully and unfiltered and unfettered. I think that's what makes a good podcast is when people are kind of free to just be themselves.
But you are interested in that. And as the host, you wouldn't have to give too much of yourself.
That is true.
You would direct them and be curious about their opinions
That is true.
and what they think of
Right.
when they express those opinions, or if they don't express them, why they don't.
That is true. Because as much as I love to have controversial opinions, I don't like controversy. I don't like being part of it. So,
Yeah, interesting.
yeah,
That's why you will stay mum on any.
for the most part, yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks.
Cheers.
Cheers. Well, there you go. Ewan Currie. I want to hear those podcasts by him. Both of them. So get on it, Ewan. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. It's always good to talk to the guy. He very nicely gave us the time when he was really only in town for that day, and he had the concert at night. So big thanks to Ewan Currie, and thank you for listening. We'll catch you next time. Good night.